As many of you know, Open RAN has a lot of moving components. So there's a radio, there's a compute a layer with a cloud infrastructure on top. There's the RAN workload itself, the DU and the CU, and then there's the control plane and the management plane. And so how do you actually put all of these things together, potentially from different vendors, even if they're following open interfaces? As many of you know, things fall through the cracks when you're talking about two different vendors, even if they're obeying an open interface specification. So how is the community actually working together to address this challenge? So out of ORAN Alliance itself, ORAN is helping set up so-called OTICs. These are open testing and integration centers. So these are hosted across the world in different geographies by operators, and they're meant as a common and vendor-neutral playground for everyone to come, bring in their products, their software or hardware, whatever it is in the radio access network area, and be able to test interoperability with other vendors' implementations, prove that they actually following the specification, and things work together. But that's only step one, right? So typically this is functional testing. When you want to deploy a network, not only do you care about functional testing, but you also care about performance and reliability and availability. And so this is where the second stage comes in, where a lot of operators are taking the next step beyond the OTIC labs and figuring out how do we set up modern CI/CD pipelines in their labs, such that when new the releases come out, new hardware releases come out, there's an automated way of putting everything together and running it through a sequence of rigorous performance, reliability, and availability tests before it is deployed on the ground. So I think the community is coming together in very interesting ways. So one, the operators are helping foster the ability to put all of these different systems together via setting up open labs like OTICs. So this is really going to help startups, because startups historically struggled to prove that their technology could work with the bigger vendors' system. So this is where the operators have an important role to play. Once that is proven, then taking advantage of open source software from bodies like CNCF with Kubernetes and all of these newer testing open source projects that are coming in, as well as testing software that has been used in the cloud and enterprise world quite successfully, and bringing them to the telco world. So all of these projects are then being put together to create CI/CD pipelines in different operator labs or even vendor labs, and make sure that we can scale the interoperability, performance, and availability testing of all of these different components before it is delivered as a solution into a network. And once the network actually is deployed, there's always a feedback loop. Nothing ever works as expected when you see it in the field. So once again, here's where modern telemetry systems that use modern data analytics, both batch and streaming analytics systems, are being used to do more automated lifecycle management of these networks, as well as flow those issues back into the CI/CD pipeline, so that when the next release comes out, it's automatically checked. So the whole goal of this is to increase the agility and the timescales at which we can deliver newer software releases. And instead of a once every 6 months release, which was typically the practice, get to a point where you can do a release almost every week and maybe eventually every day. And that's the eventual end goal of this very software-driven innovation that we want to bring to the open radio access network world. So this is still early days. I'd say that a lot of operators around the world are figuring out how to harness the power of these technologies. Many of these also require cultural transformations, because the teams in these operators have been used to getting a fully tested, baked-in, integrated solution from one vendor. And now they are having to deal with the complexity of verifying the performance when multiple systems are put together from different vendors. So that cultural transformation is happening in many operators around the world. And that's where modern software practices have a big role to play. So all in all, communities coming together to build labs, to give an open playground for doing interoperability testing, and then leveraging modern open source software practices to be able to scale testing for performance and availability and eventual deployment and monitoring.